This letter means you will die in 24 hours. No crime, no mistake, just bad luck. In this country, the authorities decide who dies and who lives. They created a poison under the guise of a vaccine and made everyone believe it, so that everyone would think that it would help save our country. The vaccine began to be administered to all children without exception. Many of the children were afraid of this vaccine because they were in pain and afraid of what could happen to them. They kept a record of each school child who received the vaccine in a special book. At the first meeting, they congratulated everyone and wished them to grow up into adults, successful and ideal people, useful to our nation. Returning joyful and happy to their classrooms, they were told a very important and most important detail. This all applies only to those who have come to us. They were told that when you became adults, some of you would die. Not all, but some. No one knows when exactly this will happen, who exactly of you will die, but it will definitely happen. The children were shocked by this news. And immediately their shock was interrupted by the words that they should live an ideal life and not waste time for our country. The fear and shock are gone, only joy and happiness remain. After some time, one of the students realized the words that were said at that meeting. He was looking forward to the end of this responsibility. Most of the students believed in this law and that it would help them value their lives. These statements made him laugh, and he was always called names for it. He was considered useless, and that he would not be able to deliver a lecture on national stimulus. The meeting began. All students who came to elementary school received this vaccine. We call this national prosperity. The vaccine contains a nanocapsule with a certain concentration. Between the ages of 18 and 24, the capsule explodes. It was administered in 1 in 1,000. No one ever knows who has this capsule. Therefore, with the feeling of fear of death, people begin to value life, and this improves our country. The families of the victims are being compensated. We are confident that this law is helping as the number of crimes has decreased. During the time that I lived, I did not worry about this. He knew that he did not have a capsule. Is this the meaning of life? Suddenly, at the meeting, someone suddenly shouted out that he couldn't stand it anymore, and the whole class was shocked. He started shouting that it was the same as playing Russian roulette. No logic, just luck. The professor started to get up, and people's thoughts were that he would stop. But he couldn't contain his thoughts, and then he told everyone the story of how his older sister died because of this law. My sister didn't do anything wrong, but she still had to die because of that damn law. The whole class got goosebumps, but he kept talking about that law and how people die for no reason. The professor silently, without saying a word, pressed the button and the door opened, in which he saw people in suits who were slowly walking towards him. Two people in suits started to twist him in front of the whole class, trying to put him to sleep so that he would finally shut up. After he was led away, the professor said that such behavior would result in a prison sentence, and continued his lecture as if nothing had happened. All that remained in the classroom were living corpses. So if you have this capsule, you will receive a will 24 hours before your death. We call it ikigami. Your job is to deliver these ikigami. You should be grateful that you have the honor of delivering them. And like puppets, they have sold themselves to these words. 4 months have passed. After the distribution, I took up the delivery of ikigami. Met my new boss. He was a former delivery man. Like me, he was counting on me. I received 3 ikigami this month. I was really curious. Who are these people? So, the first one to receive ikigami is only 20 years old and will die at 9 o'clock. It's brutal, but this is work for the future prosperity of our country. Every now and then, I remember the words of that guy from class. But I must not give in to doubt. How important is this work really? It's a typical evening in the city, at a 24-hour store, where a 20-year-old saleswoman works. He calls the next person in line. While performing his duties, he notices a very suspicious schoolboy, who at the same moment commits a crime, namely stealing. Holding back his emotions and words, he pretends as if nothing happened. There was only one thought in my mind, for him to run away quickly. But another seller notices something is wrong and goes towards the thief asking him to wait. The schoolboy was so scared that when he turned towards the seller, he was all wet. Having caught up with him, he began to assure that this was the first and last time. They started scolding him that such behavior was not appropriate for a schoolboy. The seller said goodbye, and, as he was leaving, he overheard someone tell the schoolboy that they would call his parents. His thoughts were that he saw that the boy felt guilty and was overcome by panic, not reason. What if I don't obey these generally accepted laws? Am I doomed to suffer? Thoughts are like worms in my head, itching and itching. I can't get rid of them. Damn. What's wrong with me? I'm so angry and I want to get home as quickly as possible. Back to our delivery guy. He always looks at the personal file before delivering an ikigami. This guy has health problems. Now he lives only with his mother, since his father works far away. I was very interested in what a person feels when I bring him ikigami. Damn, it's so late already, can we go faster? Do I really have to do this? As I approached the house, I thought about it deeply. But then I realized it was me who had to do it. He answered the phone and asked, "Who is it?" And he introduced himself as Tuhun from the census board. There was only dead silence, and then a commotion ensued. An old woman opened the door, and she immediately sensed something was wrong because usually people like me bring ikigami. Without explanation, I immediately announced that I was bringing a death notice. I told her right then that the only thing I could do was offer my sympathy. The woman turned pale instantly and started muttering that there must be some mistake. I told her there was no mistake and asked her to sign the notice. Trying to read the words through her tears, she couldn't believe her eyes. She was lost, thinking, why would they kill my son? Without a second thought, she threw the ikigami away and started screaming that he was wrong while trying to slam the door. But he managed to put his foot in the way and said that it was out of her hands now and that it was fate. She silently kept trying to close the door while he told her that she had 24 hours before he died and that she should tell the father and spend these last 24 hours with her son. Through her tears, she struggled to hold the door while he tried to get through to her. In a moment, she let go, and he opened the door to see the silhouette of a grieving woman. He offered his condolences and told her not to mourn because there was nothing she could have done anyway, and that it was all for the prosperity of the nation. Her legs began to shake, and in that same moment she simply collapsed. He looked at his watch and realized he had made it exactly at 9 o'clock. Standing before her, he offered his sincere condolences and wished for her son to go to a better world. As he walked away, he thought about how these were the final 24 hours for that boy. He has no idea what is coming. This is just another normal day for him. The television keeps talking promises, explanations. None of it matters. Then the government arrives. No warning. No discussion. For him, this is just another delivery. Inside his pocket, someone's entire life. Returning to the cellar, he remembered being in that thief's place. Once his own peers turned on him and started beating him up, claiming that he had snitched on them. They kicked him with their boots, and through the blood he tried to prove that he had not snitched on anyone, but they did not care because they just wanted to torment him. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Let's pull his pants off," and the girls nearby said, "Go ahead, take off his underwear." Hearing this, he almost lost consciousness and cried through his tears for them to stop, but they kept trying to humiliate him in every way possible. They surrounded him and pulled down his pants, and upon seeing this, the girls began to laugh at his privates. He lay there completely exhausted with tears streaming down his cheeks without stopping. Besides all the bullying, they kept taking pictures of him and sending them to others. In the end, they threatened him, saying that if he told anyone, it would be even worse for him. Through the pain, he muttered that they would pay for everything. Then they suddenly decided to finish him off, saying they wanted to turn him into an ashtray, and immediately started putting out their cigarettes on his skin. Those cigarette butts were like needles piercing his skin, and he screamed even louder. Suddenly, he snapped back to reality and grabbed his head as the pain was returning. Even though 4 years had passed, that day stayed in his memory forever and left a mark on his life. And there were many days like that. Once he went blind in his right eye. They forced him to drink things that no one would ever drink and made him steal, which is why he dropped out of school. The only thing he wanted was to forget everything as soon as possible. He lost his faith in people and just wanted it all to end. He considered his life to be hell. In that moment, there was a knock at the door and his pale mother walked in, trying to say a single word, but her son did not understand what she wanted. Gathering her thoughts, she said that an ikigami had arrived for him, and he could not believe her words. With trembling hands, she handed him the notice. From this moment, the countdown began. Is this the end of my life, he thought? Trying to look closely, he could not believe it. Sitting on his bed, he stared at the ikigami with only one thought in his mind, that it was most likely some kind of mistake, and they had the wrong person. Jumping up suddenly, he started running to his mom and saw her telling his father that their son would die soon and to get there however he could. From what he heard in that moment, he felt as if he was already dying. Returning to his room to the sound of time ticking away, he began to think about death and what it was like. What would happen to his dreams for the future, and would it all just fade away? He also thought that his terrible past would finally disappear too. Remembering his past and how many times he had been tormented, his mental health was at zero. He wondered why, after so much suffering, the ikigami had still been given to him. He decided he would take revenge and take as many of those who hurt him as possible with him. In that exact moment, his mother walked into the room. His mother entered the room, and before she could speak, her son interrupted her, saying that he had achieved nothing in his life. His mother ran to him in tears and began to apologize because she could not share this fate with him. He told his mother that he would take revenge regardless. There was too much anger inside him. 22 hours and 28 minutes remained. On an ordinary street, two former classmates meet, and one of them mentions the upcoming class reunion, but the other has to rush to work. In her hurry, she forgets her beret. It turns out she is that same girl who had forced the boy to take off his pants. Returning along a dark, lonely street, he approached her and called out. She turned around in fear, and not recognizing him, asked, "Who are you?" Anger did not leave his face as he looked at her. He introduced himself and said they went to high school together, but she did not really remember him, and started asking basic questions about what he had been doing since graduation. The anger on his face grew even more. He replied that he never finished school, and she immediately asked why. He could not believe that after leaving him with such trauma, she did not even remember him. Then she asked where he worked, and he said nowhere. She started to walk away, saying that in their country you cannot not work. He grabbed her by the head and came up behind her. He held a knife to her and said that he had something much better than a job. The phone rang in the house of the Ikigami deliverer. He was informed that the boy had gone missing, but he did not worry because a person has the right to choose what to do with their last 24 hours. However, another detail emerged. He had run away with a kitchen knife. This is a common practice. When a person has one last day left, they start doing whatever they want, feeling impunity. That is why we came up with a law that their parents are responsible for these actions. In such a case, no compensation is paid out. On the contrary, the parents have to pay the victim, and the family is rejected by society and often moves away. The supervisor told him that he must anticipate a person's future actions when delivering an ikigami. But his only thought was whether that boy understood what would happen to his parents after his actions. He also began to doubt these laws and the value of life. And right then his supervisor told him to think before he speaks, and that from now on, he was being watched. He suddenly remembered the professor's words about what could lead to ikigami. After finishing his conversation with the supervisor, he realized he had to act somehow. The only hope left in his mind was that nothing had happened yet, and that the guy hadn't done anything foolish. There were 19 hours and 51 minutes left. The guy had attacked the girl, pulling off her pants as well, and pushed her into the bushes. He started yelling at her. He demanded to know, did she even understand what he felt in that moment? The moment when she was taking those photos and sending them to everyone, while he was being bullied. Everyone at school mocked me, and you say you don't even remember it. You personally bullied me yourself. It's been over 4 years. But I remember that evening like it was yesterday. I suffered for a year. Now it's my turn for revenge. Strike a pose, darling. He told her that he was the one person she should never have forgotten. She wanted to scream, but she was completely paralyzed. There were 17 hours and 44 minutes left. He walked away thinking now she would finally feel the same thing he had felt back then, though he was still merciful and let her live. He couldn't accept that she claimed not to remember him. He stopped dead in his tracks. He thought it was time to send those very photos, the ones he took with her. In those bushes, he'd send them by email, just like she had sent his pictures back then. And so he found those photos and began choosing who to send them to. Opening his phone, he saw he didn't have a single contact saved. He immediately closed it, thinking what a loser he was. He checked the time. Only 17 hours left. Time was ticking. It was time to move on to the next game. The next game was that guy. The one who beat him up and used him as an ashtray. He thought he'd return the favor. In that instant, his old scars burned with a phantom pain, and slowly he started walking, planning out his revenge, step by step. That guy worked downtown at a completely ordinary barbershop. He worked there as a janitor. Suddenly at work, he was called to the phone. He was surprised. They arranged to meet at the parking lot over the phone. All he could think was this a mistake? Even though the caller said they wanted to repay an old debt. Suddenly someone shouted his name and he turned around. Standing face to face in silence, he started viciously muttering, "Who am I? Who am I? Who am I?" And in that moment, he slowly began pulling a knife from his pocket, that same kitchen knife. He pulled out the knife and asked, "Do you remember me now?" With only 10 hours and 47 minutes left until the capsule exploded.